So here is one place that we all automatically go back into identification with the body. We have some seeing that I'm not really a someone, or we have some deepening or some understanding dawns inside us of something to do with our real nature. And then something has to arise that doesn't fit in with that. And we immediately conclude, I'm failing. We reference what's happening in the body and the mind as happening to us. But just as if this room here, if I drew the curtains in this room that I'm sitting in and it was daylight outside and dark in this room, as I open the curtains, the room has to get lighter, doesn't it? There's no other way it could be. And as we open the curtains of our seeing, light floods into the body-mind, what is real, what is true, spontaneously reflecting that in the body and mind. And whatever doesn't fit in with that has to come to the surface. So if you can come to understand that that is just the process, then you don't need to lose that sense of peace when something arises. So you can be feeling joyful, peaceful, blissful, and fear happening inside the peace and the joy and the love if you recognize what's going on here. Each time you surge forward in your seeing, something will arise to be released. And as you release it, something that's no longer true, you will surge even further forward. And I've used this analogy before, but it was really, really helpful for me. I was watching the waves on the beach one day, and there seemed to be 2 or 3 waves when the tide was coming in. They would surge further and further up the beach and reach further than they had before. And then the 3rd or 4th wave wouldn't come quite so far up. It would seem to recede. But then the very next one went further than it ever had before. And this is always going on inside us. We only feel bad when these things have come up because we're resisting them. We think they're evidence that we're failing. So I've said this before, but it really does need saying again, just to cement. If you're struggling with a karmic pattern or a thought or an emotion, it's because it's no longer true for you. It's because it no longer fits inside you that it's shouting so loudly for you to address it, that you can't ignore it anymore. All these things have been inside us, these misconceptions about ourselves and others and life in general and awakening. And they're coming to the surface now to be released. So we cannot reference what's happening in the mind or in the emotions or in our experience as evidence of our success or failure in awakening. For a little while after first seeing what you are, there will be this process of things coming to the surface to release. And the way that you approach those, the way that you handle those, the way that you hold those when they arise is going to determine how long it takes for this belief to dissipate. If it's just, oh, here's the next thing to look at, here's the next thing I'm ready to transcend, to release, to let go of, then you won't lose your peace at all. Instead, if we are, why is this happening? And why have I lost my seeing? And why can't I stop this thing from happening? Then we're going to feel very disturbed and we're going to feel like we're failing. And most importantly, we've lost a golden opportunity in that moment to inquire and release this thing in the openness of our seeing. So it may be fundamental or obvious or even surprising what I'm saying, but if we could just get this one thing, that these beliefs have been inside us all of our life, and now they're coming up louder and shouting in terms of our experience, reflecting as our experience and our emotions, because of our seeing, not in spite of it, because we're waking up and they no longer fit inside, because awakening is unfolding. and not because we're failing or we did something wrong and lost what we've seen. That seeing, that epiphany, that aha moment, that realization will temporarily seem to be obscured, gone, lost, temporarily, while this belief is asking for your help to be released, or this emotion is asking for your help to be felt and dissipated. The moment you welcome that and inquire, you'll have access again to this new level of consciousness that you have realized. So things are going to come up for a while as you keep seeing deeper. But do you have to suffer through that process? Or can that be a fun exploration of what's left inside to release, rather than evidence that you just aren't getting it or that you're not there yet? And perhaps that's the major fundamental shift really to awakening, becoming effortless, constant peace, is to kind of just recognize that stuff may come up for a while as I work through the remaining misconceptions I've had about myself. And I recognize the areas of my life that I'm still holding on to those misconceptions. And then I can let those go. But I don't have to be suffering. I can go through that stage peacefully and joyfully. It doesn't have to be a long, drawn out, painful process. Unless, like for me, it did have to be a painful, long, drawn out process. I was sure it was evidence of my failure. And I had to learn to turn this around, as I'm speaking about this evening. If you just get this one thing, the rest of your awakening you'll just slide through it effortlessly. No matter what negative emotion comes up, it will be happening inside you and not to you. No matter what experience happens, it will be just a reflection of your old thinking that needs to be examined, and not something you're doing wrong. And there is such a huge difference in those two ways to experience releasing of karmic patterns. So it never hurts to hear this again. It never hurts to check how we're holding these things when they come up. And I'm not for a second expecting you to like them. You know, if you're sitting there in peace and some fear comes up or some shame or something like that, of course we're not going to like them. Of course we prefer they weren't there, but we can honor them and see that they're trying to show us something, and that when we look at that, it will be gone and it will never affect us the same way again. So I hope that is helpful to kind of speed up this process, this stage that seems to happen of embodying this or coming to live as this after we've seen or while we're seeing. So